Hi, my name's Cricket Greer. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner with Blue Lotus Ayurveda in Asheville, North Carolina. Today, I'd like to share a pranayama practice that can be used for exploring somatically and psychospiritually. It's a practice that I developed that's loosely based on a kriya from the Yogananda tradition, where the energy of prana is moved up through the spine all the way to the top of the head to the Sahasrara chakra. But then in this kriya, I move it down the front of the body. So let me talk you through it, and then I'll share with you how I like to use the pranic energy of working with this breath. So I always begin my pranayama by finding a comfortable position and making sure that my spine is nice and tall so the energy can flow freely through the body. I like to either sit with my feet flat on the floor, or I can sit cross-legged and the palms resting on the thighs. So with full yogic breath, which I shared on another video, I'll just briefly go through it again. We're inhaling and exhaling through the nose. The inhalation begins deep in the abdominal region, and you can think of it three-dimensionally as also expanding the sacral region and all through the sides here. Then on the same breath through the nose, we move up to the thoracic region, so we start to fill this whole area three-dimensionally. And then finally all the way up to the clavicular region three-dimensionally. This is all one breath. I like to pause at the top and then exhaling down from the top all the way to the bottom, three-dimensionally, exhaling out the air all the way down from the clavicular region, thoracic, all the way back down to the abdominal and sacral region. So that's three-part breathing. Inhaling deeply all the way up with a pause, and exhaling all the way down, and you can have a pause at the end as well. So this can be also, you can also use ujjayi breathing if you know how to do that. I'm not going to teach that particular pranayama here, but it's the one where you constrict your throat a little bit. And when I say a little bit, there's a continuum of constriction with the throat with ujjayi, and so let it be a very loose and relaxed constriction. Here we're really wanting to tune into the flow of the prana coming in and make it a very gentle process. Try not to force anything. If you start to feel like you're gasping for breath or that you're holding or straining in any way, always remember to relax. It's okay if your breath isn't as long as you would like for it to be. This is where we're trying to meet our bodies and our minds in the capacity that it is in that moment. So using ujjayi, using the three-part breathing. Like I said, you don't have to use ujjayi, so if you don't know what it is, no worries. Just work with trying to take in full breaths, okay? So once you have the three-part breathing down, then you can take it into this kriya practice. And so you start with the same kind of breathing with those deep breaths, right? Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. But we begin by visualizing and having a felt sense of the energy and the breath moving up from the tailbone all the way up through the spinal column to the top of the head. So it's going up the back of the body, up the spine as we're breathing in, all the way up to the Sahasrara chakra. And then up here, there's that little pause of expansion. And then as we exhale, it comes down the front of the body. This is a little bit different than the original kriya that I learned. So instead of going back down the back, we're coming down the front of the body with the breath, exhaling the breath out. And then it wraps underneath the Muladhara chakra. So we're wrapping underneath the genital, the groin area, and coming back around to the tailbone, coming up the spine on your next inhalation, having a little pause at the top of the head, and then coming down the front of the head, hitting all the chakras from the front now. And as I'm doing this breath pattern, inhaling up, exhaling down in this circular breath pattern, right? And it's very slow and expansive. As I'm doing that, I like to notice if there are places, especially on that exhalation, but it could be the inhalation for you, just noticing where the breath kind of feels like it's harder, or if there are any areas where it feels like it's tight, or you don't have any sensation, or it tends to skip over when you get there to go down. So kind of paying attention to those areas. And so after you've done several of these, or many of these, as many as you'd like to do, then I like to, on the last one, I like to bring the breath to settle in an area that most calls for the prana. So, like I said, it could be an area that feels empty, like there's no sensation at all, or maybe there's a real tightness there, or somehow the prana isn't able to get into the area well. So, any area like that, or maybe you have pain. So, when you go down the front or when you're coming up the back, just wherever you are in that process, stay there and expand your breath. So keep breathing in that same spot over and over again until it feels complete, or at least complete for this particular practice. So what you're wanting to do is try to bring the prana, which is life force, energy, into the area with the breath. And so trying not to force it. At first you can try to take a very expansive breath, but maybe it feels stuck. And so you need to be a little gentler, a little lighter to see if you can get into the area. Okay? And just accepting whatever is there, being open to any thoughts that come, any experiences that come somatically, feeling-wise, or any emotions that might come. Just trying to be open and provide a nice loving container for whatever you're experiencing in that moment. So it's a beautiful meditation with the breath. Okay. And then once you feel like you've explored the area, and again, staying with the felt sense is really important, because even if you're aware of a thought passing through, just let it pass through and come back to the felt sense, just like you would in a Vipassana meditation where you're just keeping a light focus on this breath. But we're actually actively working with a subtle breath here to try to open our somatic experience in the body. Okay. Once we feel done, then just go back to normal breathing, and it can be very subtle. And then the practice is done. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can always email me at cricket@bluelotusayurveda.com.